Alright everybody, how's it going? As I alluded to in a video, I'm going to be doing a multiplayer Let's Play of Crusader Kings 2 with the Republic expansion. The only expansion I do not have is the Sunset Invasion because frankly I don't really give a fuck about being invaded by Aztecs. I don't want fantasy bullshit. That's not really why I play this game. Or anything by Paradox, really. I do like to play alternate reality scenarios and, you know, powers becoming huge, etc., etc. But primarily I like to do it within a historic context. So, we're going to play as Venice, and that plays a little bit differently than a lot of the basic Crusader Kings world. A lot of this you'll recognize. I mean, the map looks very similar. It is limited to Europe, Africa, Northern Africa specifically, the Middle East, and parts of Asia, Western Asia. There's the thing about this game that's really cool is it is mostly about the characters and their dynasties. It's not so much about the realities of conquest and things of that nature, although that will take part. It's more about relationships between characters and the stories that come out of them. We're going to be playing as Venice, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pick one of the families of Venice and give you a quick overview of the interface and what is important and what we're going to be looking at so that we aren't trying to do this on the fly, because that's fucking tedious. Basically, as you can see, they give us a choice blocks where we can put our preferred 5 things that we normally use on, and as well as the rest of the buttons. You have, of course, your terrain mode, independent realms, diplomatic relations, all that stuff. The ones that I use the most are down here. They are the independent realms, the opinions that everybody has of me, which is very important in this because it's going to affect how much my trade posts cost. The religions of the areas, because as I start to claim cities, I'm going to want to know what the religious breakdown is of various cities and be ready to adjust it. Polygamist. Oh, it's an Orthodox heresy. Fantastic. And then we have 2 other new buttons here. We have Republic Trade Regions, which breaks down where the different merchant republics, which at the beginning there are 4. There is Gotland, which is part of Sweden, Genoa, Pisa, and Venice. And this shows the overview of where those nations control trade-wise. This here is the family trade zone. This will break it down by what families own what. As you can see, it starts off and each family has their own little trade zone because everybody has one trade port. The Contarinis actually have the biggest advantage because they start off with Venice. But that's neither here nor there. Now, the things that you're going to see, you've got the normal drop-down things like I'm unmarried and there's an ambition to pick. And so for shits and giggles, I'm going to pick that I desire to get married. Generally, that's the first thing you're going to do most of the time. If you've created a character that's not married or you are a character that's not married, you can arrange the marriage in a couple different ways, either by clicking on this, which will give you the best options for you, or by finding a character. But we're not worried about that. With the republics, they're all agnatic seniority for your house and patrician elective for the republic. I'll explain patrician elective in a minute, but agnatic seniority is, quite frankly, the oldest member of your dynasty will become in charge. That means all your brothers, all your cousins, all your kids, all your uncles, everything. So that means that it's very easy to maintain your dynasty. The downside to it is the more male characters you have, the more family dues are paid. And that's painful in a nutshell. Because really the point of being a republic is making lots and lots of money. With your councils, I mean, there's a lot of different things that you're going to be doing, but primarily you're going to be training your troops. At least this is the way I usually do it. I train my troops where both the capital and my capital are. It increases the maximum number of troops that come out of there, and as you can see, as a trade republic, you don't get a lot. collect taxes as well out of my main place so that I get more money. Scheme in Venice, because there's going to be a lot of stuff going on between people in there, and it's not good. And then, since we don't have anybody that we're going to have to convert anytime soon, and I don't want heresy forming in the various areas, I usually send him off to the Pope. The reason that I do that is because if the Pope doesn't like you very much, somebody that he likes more can convince the Pope to excommunicate you, and that causes all sorts of problems, both relationship problems, prestige problems, piety problems. I mean, it's just not good. You don't want it. People can declare war and force you to abdicate thrones. So you don't want to be that. So usually I just try to keep the Pope happy with the diplomatic fire-off. It doesn't happen very often, which is tedious, but it does happen. And when it happens, it's fantastic, because it gives you plus 40 relations. Now, that leads to the Chancellor, who, if you've played this a lot, not as a republic. Need a drink of soda right there. If you played it a lot, not as a republic, most of the time what you're doing is this. You're fabricating claims to try to get other stuff around you, or you're sowing dissent. With this, what I'm going to do with it is I'm going to park him somewhere and improve diplomatic relations. The reason that I chose Benghazi is because the Emir of the Sulamite Emirate controls this section, and I really want to put a trade post in Benghazi, because as the family that I am, which is Morosini, and this is the same family I'm going to choose when we play, although I'm going to make my own character, I want to lock up this whole, basically this whole section here to be my trade routes. That's my goal. It might actually change. The other guy, Morgan, might want to be Morosini so that he has a little bit easier go with less competition, in which case I'll probably start as Zayani so that I can have basically spread out this way and try to run a sweep along North Africa and then around the Iberian Peninsula. It's expensive, but man, does it pay off. There's some caveats you can have. Like, one of the things that I tried starting off in one game was I actually locked up this whole section through here, the Gulf of Venice, worth a fortune. The problem is that the Venetian king or the Venetian doge and the Kaiser had a falling out, and so the Kaiser decided to burn every trade post in there, and it completely decimated me. My income was gone. So you want to be careful to not have all of your eggs in one basket. You also have a few advantages of things that you can do. You can declare war on anyone at any time to seize a coastal city. That won't take the whole province. It'll just take the city. This does two things. Number one, it gives you another income source, because now you've got a second city that you control. Number two, well, it does three things. Number two, it reduces the distance, because if you see here, when you go to make a trade post, this one costs 329. Of that 329, 300 of it is because of the distance from the nearest republic-held province, which is the nearest republic city, which is in Spilett right here. That is that city right here. So if I were to take, for instance, the city of Reggio, that would cut the distance down, because everything outside of here, outside of the Gulf of Venice, would now run off of Reggio instead of off of Spilett. The other thing that it does, the third and final thing, is if you have a city, the Doge can declare war on an entity. The Doge himself can declare war on an entity to seize the whole province, in which case whoever controls the city then becomes the count of the province, and it becomes a republic. What it'll do is it'll actually replace the barony with the city, and you'll control both the city and the barony. And so the primary thing that you're doing is trying to expand trade zones, make a lot of money, and things of that nature. So you can't, if you are the Doge, you cannot adjust the crown authority ever. It is always limited, and that's actually pretty fantastic. Under your family level, the Republican laws, patriarch, you can adjust everything. A lot of people have been cranking the shit out of city taxes to get a whole lot of extra money. I generally don't do it. I don't even do it in single-player games as a king. I mean, yes, you can get a lot of that, but a lot of money that way. But you get the majority of your money from your domain, and in this, you get the majority of your money from your trade. So I don't know. Whatever. Technology, you work a little bit differently. Generally, if I am a king, I will either train military organization or tactics. Military organization so that I can get the improvement in the retinues. Tactics so that I can get the better armies. Usually in this, I just generally use tactics because higher morale is going to be better for me. I choose town infrastructure as compared to like castle infrastructure, what have you, so that I can build larger cities, better ports, things of that nature. And legalism so that I can increase my domain, because now legalism has a much stronger impact than it did before. Before, stewardship was stewardship gave you one extra domain for every 3 points, I think. So if you had a stewardship of 25, your domain was like 12, which was ridiculous. And they cut that down notably. Now it's it was one for every 3, and now it's like one for every 5 or something like that. So for having a high stewardship, you don't get as much. So that means that the +1, not to that screen yet, the +1 that you get for every level of legalism, well, depending on your rank. I mean, if you're a baron, it's +1. If you're a duke, it's +2, and so on. The bonuses that you get for every rank of legalism are massive now. So that's generally what I do there. Most of the battles with merchant republics, you're going to fight using mercenaries. You're going to get a lot of these. They're going to be your bread and butter, because you're going to have piss loads of money and no troops from your own domain. So you're going to have, just like in real life, you're going to fight your wars with paid soldiery and eventually retinues. But as you can see, you don't get shit for retinues, which is exactly why I don't bother with military organization anymore, because getting a 10% bonus when you have 27 cap, what the fuck is the point? A lot of your stuff is going to be done through here. You're going to do a lot of different intrigue, a lot of really brutal stuff. Not much happens faction-wise inside republics that I've seen so far. Pope is the Pope. And now for the meat of the new screen. This is how the patrician elective system works. First of all, on top of, as you can see, I have the city of Gisolo, and I also have House Morosini. House Morosini is my mansion. Your personal mansion is now your main shindig. Oh, hey, look, they start with stuff. When you start a new character, you don't have any of this. Any of it. You start on a blank slate. That's actually pretty awesome. With this is where you get all of your mana upgrades. You're gonna get a lot out of this. Your fortified vault gives you a greater tax income than you get out of your towns. You can get a secluded shrine that increases your piety and your church likingness. Wine cellar increases your fertility. Parlous garden that increases your prestige. Where you really start to shine in your castle is what it does for troops. I mean, plus 70 infantry, plus 50 pikemen. That's huge comparatively. Plus 95, plus 95. They're huge. They're very expensive. Don't get me wrong, but they give you a notable increase over what a regular house is. And then, of course, with the military warehouse, retinue size plus 1,000. Ba-bam. But let's look over this screen, because this screen is this screen is where you're going to spend a lot of time. Well, not really a lot of time, but you're going to see me pop it open periodically and look through it. This shows you all of the current houses of the serene republic that you're within. There's 5 main houses, 5 primary houses in every republic. If one of the houses dies out, another one is born that takes over, and so on and so forth. The patrician of the house has the brown and blue rings. The he's not a patrician, but he's an heir. The heir ends up becoming second in line. This is the campaign. Respect is primarily known by age and prestige. So every point of prestige equals 1 point of respect. Your age is factored in by some weird equation that I don't know. Come on up, kitty, if that's what you want to do. And so whoever, when the current doge dies, whoever is most respected is who is then made the next doge. And doge is a lifetime position. So, I mean, if you manage to get elected as doge at 20, which, by the way, you're probably not going to, it's really hard. But if you manage to get elected doge at 20, you're going to be doge for a very long time. There are positives and negatives to being the doge. One of the positives is, of course, that you control Venice, and Venice is amazing. One of the other advantages is that none of the other patricians can wage war on you over trade posts and things like that. And the last one is that you control the Venetian armies, so you can make some decisions in combat that the other patricians cannot. The downside is that you can't wage war on your vassals, so you can't wage war on any of the patricians in order to steal their stuff. You have to do it entirely through plots. By the way, plots are a pretty good way to do it anyway. Now, the other point source of respect is through campaign funds. Every $10 that you put in gives you $50, or 50 respect. So it's a 1 to 5, but you have to put it in increments of 10, as you can see. You can take them back out as long as the doge hasn't died. It's not lost completely until the doge dies, and that's primarily the way that it goes. You can upgrade your trade posts just like any other, and the way that it upgrades is if you choose the merchant enclave, then it increases the tax income. It's right here. And if you increase the merchant post, it increases the trade value right here. Now, the thing about increasing the trade value is it increases it for the entire trade zone. So if I have a trade zone that constitutes, say, through here, then when I up the trade 10, it ups it for everything, which will give about 0.1 income bonus right here to every single one of my trade posts. Doesn't seem like it's a lot, but imagine a world where every single one of these coastal cities has a trade post, and you spend 100 ducats, and every single one of them, their income increases by 0.1. That's what? 5 gold for $100? That's better than a fucking city upgrade. The last thing that we're going to talk about here is trade zone control. To control a trade zone, one has to have more trade posts than anyone else. If I were to build a trade post in Istria here, and then run it out so that it builds up, and so he's got one and I've got one, then he doesn't have it anymore. As you can see, Genoa and Pisa have that problem right here. Lucca will decide it. Whoever builds in Lucca first will win the Ligurian Sea. So you can have trade wars pretty heavily. You can swap back and forth, and actually you'll see this stuff swap back and forth periodically, especially within Venice. And so it can make for a very dynamic and very high-pitched, high-battle game. But it does cause one downside. There's a flaw in the way that it's coded, that it is effectively a trade post spam race. The increasing the trade income of your ports does not allow you to take over control of the trade location. So that's something that I think they need to work on. But you can plot to take them away, and you can war to take them away. And that is the basic fundamental thing that we're going to be looking at here. I'm hoping that you guys are going to enjoy it. I'll be introducing Morgan sometime this weekend, probably, and we will be getting going on Crusader Kings 2, The Republic. Have a good day, everybody.